Hello viewers, welcome to this tutorial. So we are at the point of continuing with this code. Okay, so when I was writing this code, I was actually happy. I didn't know why I was laughing. Maybe I like dealing with files, since I explained I kind of use files to do my database. Okay, so we want to learn how to deal with files in this session. So if you are watching this tutorial fresh, I would advise you to go to the previous tutorial. You will understand why we use the with, why we use the open, what this my file actually means. So this point is just the continuation of what we have to do, okay, where we ended. So the last thing I spoke about in the previous tutorial is what this my file means. Okay, so I'm just saying it again. This my file you're seeing right here is not the name of the file we are accessing. It's neither the access mode we are using to interact with the file. It is basically every information we're trying to do in or every information we're trying to do with Python in order to talk to a file. Okay, so this my file, in as much as we have used this built-in function called open, which consists of the name of the file and the access mode of the file, everything we want to do with a file with Python will be stored in this variable called my file. So anytime we call my file, what will be displayed is the name of the file and how we want to access the file and some encoding ways. So don't really bother about them. So if I run this code, that is what we actually see here. It consists of the name of the file. So it says an IO wrapper. So wrapper is something that is like covering. Okay, so this variable is, let me say, a covering variable. Just take it that way. It's a covering variable. So we have to be able to unpack this variable. So till we unpack this variable, we cannot access this file using the read mode. Okay, so this is the best definition I can give. I keep on saying this, I just do not know why. Alright, so the next thing we have to do is to declare another variable, so we will be able to access the name of the file from this my file. Alright, so or the data within the file from my file. Okay, so if we have my file equals, or we can say my file access, or maybe my data equals, okay, and we bring the name of this, the variable, and we bring read. So you realize there are so many methods we can use under IO when it comes to reading and writing from a file. We have either reading from the file, we have readable, we have read line, we have read lines. So these are things we can do, but we basically want to start with the read. Okay, so read, and we bring open and close brackets. Okay, so what this actually does is we've declared the new variable called my data, and the my data is actually going to go through the variable called my file. Then when it goes through the variable called my file, there is a property or an extension which is saying that, oh, read from this file. So it will kind of go through my file will take it through the name of the file, and it will use the access mode called read to give it permission to use this read method to go through every data you have in the file. Okay, so if I say print my data, oh, my data, all right, my data again. Okay, my data to actually give me everything I need within the file. So check, I have Ghana, I have South Africa, I have United States, I have all these countries. So let me try to print these two at a time so you know what it actually means. So if I say print my file, okay, so I'm printing both my file and my data. So if I run this code, check what happens. It shows me what my file actually is, which I've already explained, including the encoding, which is how Python wraps the language we are using. And moreover, it shows me the data within my data, or the data within my file. So there's the clear difference between this variable my file, which actually receives the stuff I have here. Okay, how whatever we want to do with the file. This, and it explains also the meaning of the my data, which reads the things from a file. So if you know the difference between this my file and my data, then you are good to move deeper into what file actually does. So just kind of know the difference. This is kind of the wrapper that holds every data we have, and this is kind of it holds the data in the access mode, and this is kind of a receiver from what is within. And the reason why everything is able to succeed is just because of the dot read. Okay, if we don't bring the dot read, everything here will be dumped into this. So if we display them, we see the same thing. Just check it out, it is a little bit funny. So if I run this code, we see two things. So it's like we've initiated this value and we've put it inside this, so it's kind of work the same thing. So till we bring the dot read, it will not bring the values we need. So if I run the code, this is what we have. So we are done with my file. Let's cancel it, and if you run our code, this is what we have. Okay, so this is the basic points of this tutorial, teaching you how to read the things of a file. Now let me give you one trick, one basic thing that I do. I just do not like declaring much variables. Sometimes it's just a waste of space. Okay, you are just wasting memory, because every variable you declare takes space in memory. So I just don't like the duplicating variable. Those of you who watch my function tutorial, I really spoke about that. Having more variables is not really the key. You can simplify your code. So what I do is, instead of saying my data, I bring another variable, my file. So it overrides this one. Okay, now it doesn't tamper with it. It does nothing. All I'm doing is, I don't want to have two variables within trying to read and write your file. No, only one variable is good for me to go. So I have this as my file, and then my file accesses the one, everything here. Then I have another variable, my file, which overwrites everything here. But before it overwrites, I try to give it a message and say, oh, before you overwrite the things I have here, the same thing you have there, try to read it for me before you overwrite. So it will kind of put everything here, the data within the man file, within this man file. So this kind of prevents you from declaring more variables. Now you can still say, I want to use my data and print my data. It works perfectly. But I just want to override this file and keep every data within the name of the file within itself. So I don't have two or more variables. It's the same thing. So I have the same thing here, Ghana. Everything works perfectly. Okay, so if you want to stay with my data, fine. If you want to deal with my file, cool. Okay, but for the sake of tutorials, I'm going to be using my data, all right, so that you just get it well. But personally, I use my file. Okay, so my file keeps it cool. So this kind of explains the difference between them. My file is kind of the IO wrapper. My data is kind of receiving the values we have from this. If you want to move with how I used to do it and just name this my file to overwrite all this, no problem. It still keeps your code working. Okay, and everything just goes simplified. So this is how to read from a file. Now there is one more thing I want to show you when it comes to reading from a file. If the file does not exist, it will give you an error. Okay, if the file does not exist, it gives an error. So let's come here. Now check this out. I have this file. Let's say I delete this file. Let me copy all what I have within before I delete them. Okay, so I've copied them. So if I delete this file, I try to delete this file. Okay, or let me not delete the file. Let me see what I can do with the file. Let me not delete the file. Let me just give a different name to the file. Or instead of giving a different name, let me go back to the code. It's a whole lot of things I'm doing up here, and rename the file. Maybe my countries. Okay. Alright, now there is no file within my folder called my countries. So if the name of the file does not exist, it gives you an error message. So check, if I run the code, it says file not found error, and say no such file directory or directory as this. Alright, so this is what you have to know when it comes to reading from a file. If the file actually does not exist, it pops to you an error. So you have to have the name of the file before you kind of read from the file. So that is one thing you have to know. It will really help you through your code, and have that perception within your mind that any file you want to read basically should have the file in existence. Even if there is nothing in the file, it will still work. So let's jump into it. Let's clean everything from the file. Okay, and let me save it as well. So there is nothing in the file right now. So if I run the code, oh, I still did not change the name here. So let me clean this. If I run the code, there is nothing. Okay, so this is it still works. So I want to print something and say print hello, your code is executed. Okay, so your code is executed, meaning there was actually nothing within the file. You can actually print this one as well here inside your print statement. You can actually print this one as well and say all your files are being read. Alright, all your files are being read. Alright, read. Alright, so that is how it is. So this is the basic thing you have to know. Stop and rerun. So this is what we actually have. Okay, all your files are being read, but there is eventually nothing in the file. So what you have to know about reading the file is the name of the file has to exist, or the file has to exist, and you have to be able to use this read in order to go through the file. So what if you want to read the file one after the other? I'm just trying to take you guys through a step so you know how to understand each one of these things. So this is just how to read bones from a file. Now in the next tutorial, I'll teach you how to access the list within the file one after the other. So watch out for the next tutorial, and thank you for viewing. Subscribe if you have not, like the videos if they're informative for you, and hit the bell to get all updates by default. Thank you.